How's it going, guys? So, with this stacked weekend of boxing, there is a fairly interesting fight coming up in the heavyweight division. Kubrat Pulev is going to be taking on former heavyweight champion Samuel Peter in Sofia, Bulgaria. And one thing I will say is that I do understand that this fight is a showcase fight. Now, Samuel Peter, the last time that Samuel Peter had a considerable victory was back in 2008 when he stopped Oleg Maskayev. Since then, he really hasn't had any legitimate victories at all. I mean, right after that fight, he lost his title against Vitaly Klitschko in terribly one-sided fashion. He got an absolute battering in that fight, and his corner had to pull him out. And since then, it's just been all downhill. I mean, he went on to lose to Eddie Chambers, and he looked terrible in that fight too. And he ultimately was knocked out by Vladimir Klitschko in the 10th round. I remember that fight. And then after that, he fought undefeated at the time Robert Helenius and got brutally knocked out in the 9th round, and it was just a devastating knockout. That was early 2011, and it looked at that point like he was probably going to retire, because I mean the knockout was just absolutely brutal, and just the way that he went down, and coming off a knockout defeat to Klitschko as well, and then going into that fight and getting brutally knocked out again, it really looked as if Samuel Peter was done. And I think he was retired for a time. However, he did come back in 2014, and he stopped some journeyman, and then he took another 2 years off, and he fought recently and had I believe it was an early stoppage against some guy in Mexico. I haven't actually seen the fight. I don't know what round it was. I just read a report on it. But yeah, he's back. He's got a shot at Kubrat Pulev. Like I said, this is a showcase fight. Kubrat Pulev should win this fight, and he should win this fight handily. But what interests me about this fight, and why I am interested to tune into this fight, is because Kubrat Pulev, ever since the Vladimir Klitschko fight, I don't think he's been the same fighter. Now, as we all know, he was brutally knocked out himself by Vladimir Klitschko in the 5th round. And when he came back for his next fight, I just got the feeling, watching the fight, it was against George Arias, and I got the feeling watching it that Kubrat Pulev looked a little gun-shy to me. Every time Arias came forward, Pulev was holding and leaning, and that's something that Kubrat Pulev never used to do prior to the Vladimir Klitschko fight. He was always a fighter who would like to stand in the center of the ring and establish his jab and really get his jab going and work behind his jab and box and box within the rules. But in that fight against Arias, he looked like a completely different fighter. He looked very gun-shy. He had, every time Arias got forward, Pulev looked really scared to death of engaging in the fight. So I think that there was a lasting effect from the Klitschko fight. I think it really did shape Pulev's confidence, and I really don't think that Pulev is anywhere near as as sharp or as confident in his own ability as he was prior to the Klitschko fight. However, after defeating George Arias, he went on to fight some journeyman. Then he fought Derek Chisora, and that was a decent performance. He outboxed Chisora. However, he still had that same problem. Every time Chisora got close, it looked to me like Pulev was really, really scared of getting hit, and that's why there was a lot of holding in that fight from Pulev. And even though in the center of the ring, the fight was a mismatch. I mean, he was out jabbing Chisora, he was catching Chisora with right hands, he was schooling him, but it was just every time Chisora got close, I really got the feeling that Pulev was a little bit too, a little bit too tense, a little bit too on edge. He just doesn't seem to be as fluid as he was prior to the Klitschko fight. So that's going to be interesting here, because Sam Peter, although Sam Peter's washed up, although it's been a long time since Sam Peter did anything legitimate in the sport, what he does have still, and we know this because his last couple of fights have ended inside the distance, we know that he still does have power. Sam Peter was always a very hard puncher. Now, and in fact, he was always well known for being a very dangerous puncher and being a tough dude as well that comes to fight, even though he might be limited in the skill department. He's always been a dangerous puncher, right? We all know that. Just ask Klitschko in the first fight against Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko hit the canvas 3 times, so clearly Samuel Peter, even at this stage of his career, I mean, even completely washed up, he's still a big guy with heavy hands. So I mean, if he's able to get inside, if he's able to land something, we don't really know how Pulev's going to react, because Pulev might still be gun shy. So that's the only thing that really interests me about this fight. I think that Pulev should likely win this fight. He should win the fight easily. He should win it by stoppage. It's just that if he does take a big shot early on in the fight, you never know. We don't know how he's going to react. So yeah, that intrigues me about the fight. Now, I believe this is Pulev's first fight that's going to be taking place in Bulgaria. He's never actually fought in Bulgaria before. The majority of his career, of course, has been staged in Germany. I believe he's fought in Denmark at one point as well. You know, just on the Sauerland cards, you know, they have a lot of cards in Germany and Scandinavia and stuff like that. And I think that Kubrat Pulev has only really fought on those cards because obviously Bulgaria boxing isn't really that popular. There's a lot of poverty there, a lot of war that goes on. I actually know some Bulgarians. I used to work with them, and they told me some pretty fucked up things about it. Put it that way. You know, a lot of Bulgarians, you know, they want to leave it because of how things are done there. You know, it's a very militant and very volatile country. There's a lot of crime and a lot of poverty there. So yeah, that's probably why he decided to leave Bulgaria. But you know, this is going to be his first fight there in his hometown of Sofia. And yeah, you know, I think that it's obviously gonna draw a lot of attention to boxing in that country. So that's quite interesting. And you know, Kubrat Pulev is pretty much he's the only heavyweight I know that Bulgaria has. So you know, surely they're going to get behind him if he does win this fight. Now, I believe that Kubrat Pulev, I think that he vacated his European title. I could be mistaken there, but I heard something about him vacating the title, because he was supposed to fight Marius Wack, but he's given up the title and he's taken the Samuel Peter fight instead. This is going to be for one of them WBA straps, and it will get him in line for I believe the winner of is Shannon Briggs? He's not fighting Lucas Brown anymore, is he, for the WBA title? No, that's not happening now because Lucas Brown failed a second drug test, so that fight's been cancelled. But I believe that Shannon Briggs is fighting somebody for the WBA belt. I'm not sure who that's going to be, but I believe that Kubrat Pulev, if he wins this fight, he'll be in line to fight whoever holds the WBA belt once that fight's taken care of. I believe that Kendo has been the WBA mandatory for a while. I know that Kendo was supposed to fight Shagayev, but Shagayev ended up vacating the title. I think Shagayev decided to retire, and I wonder why Kendo hasn't been given a shot at the title before. You know, someone like Shannon Briggs, who hasn't fought anybody. I mean, Shannon Briggs really, you know, he really doesn't deserve a world title shot. I've got nothing against Briggs. He's a cool guy, but you know, he hasn't won a meaningful fight in a long time. Okay, I mean, since losing to Vitaly Klitschko in 2010, he took like 4 years off boxing, came back, and in the past 2 years or so, he's knocked out a bunch of bums. You know, a bunch of first round pushovers, basically journeymen. And you know, I really don't think that I really don't think that Shannon Briggs really should be fighting for a world title, but oh well, it's boxing and worse things have happened. But yeah, I'll be interesting to see where Kubrat Pulev goes if he beats Samuel Peter, which I believe he will. I believe that in the first round, I can see him being cagey as he has been since the Klitschko fight, because obviously doesn't want to steam in there and get caught with something silly. Long as he works behind his jab and you know, boxes from the outside, he'll have no problems in this fight, and he'll probably stop Sam Peter in 8 rounds, I'd say. I mean, Sam Peter can take a punch. You know, he's always had a good chin, so he'll probably go to the mid rounds or the later rounds. But you know, let's see what happens here. I'll be tuning in to watch the fight anyway. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching.